Do you know what's the most valuable feature in your home? It's not the tiling, paint, flooring, kitchen or bath. It's a 4-foot square of cement that repeats itself. The sidewalk, your sidewalk. I grew up in an older, traditionally designed neighborhood. Way back in the day, I used to run down the stairs and jump on my bike. It had a banana seat on it. I used to pedal my bike warp 9 down the driveway. I lean into a right turn. I wave at my old school neighbor, Mrs. Costello. She's sweeping her front porch in her muumuu dress. What was it with muumuus back then? You see, I used my bike for everything, even to make money. Had a paper route. Efficiency was the key. While pedaling, I used to aim about 10 feet in front of the porch. I had a 60% target rate of landing it right on the deck. Unfortunately, one Christmas season, I went to the old widow, Mrs. Tesch's house. I walk up the stairs and I ring the doorbell. "Merry Christmas, Mrs. Tesch." So I was handing her a Christmas card. Mrs. Tesch looks at me and says, "Ah, so you're looking for a tip, huh? Well, go look for it in the bushes with all the other papers." These were the traditional neighborhood experiences that I observed, that happened to me. It was social currency from the cement that forged my happy-go-lucky kid life. Now listen, that was my neighborhood experiences, but I'm sure you all remember your own. We were all connected back then. The sidewalk was our forum. It was a place to meet. I met my friends there, the neighborhood kids. It was community. And community may be something we could use a little bit more of today. Well, I grew up. And I moved into one of the older, great neighborhoods of Chicago. One day, while walking on the sidewalk to Starbucks, I found love. I met my wife. We got married. But then we chucked it all and moved to suburbia. Listen, we were looking for more space, but we didn't know what we were getting into. Right? At first, it was pretty cool. You know, parking was free, plentiful everywhere. Just pull your car right in, didn't matter. There's an endless array of strip malls to drive to as well. Roads were super wide, easy to navigate. You could make U-turns galore. Then the shine wore off. Reality set in. I really started to notice my commute time. It was an hour plus each way to a stressful, crappy, 10-hour-a-day job at a faceless Fortune 500 company. Every day was like Groundhog's Day. I'd be late for work, I'd be rushing, I'd be gnashing my teeth, white-knuckling it with the steering wheel. I arrived home tired and frustrated, and I watched my neighbors do the same thing, going from their cars to garages, garages to back doors, and back doors into homes. Does this sound familiar? How many hours a week do you spend white-knuckling in traffic? My health suffered. I felt alone, disconnected, even depression set in. I didn't know that this feeling of being isolated in this sprawling, spread out, drive everywhere for anything experience was affecting me instead of the feeling of connectedness I felt in my old neighborhood. Once I arrived in Orlando, it changed. One day, while listlessly driving around, I crossed the street. Flash, man, I am transported back in time. I mean, the clouds were clearing, the sun rays were piping down. I even heard birds chirping. What was this old TV neighborhood that I've stumbled into? I mean, I saw kids riding their bikes on the sidewalk. Adults were walking and jogging. What was this? Was this heaven? I mean, I didn't know. I later found out that this type of newish, but older looking, but still new type of neighborhood design is called new urbanism. I even became so obsessed with this that I went in to get my Master's of Planning in Civic Urbanism. I've spent years studying, designing, and advocating this concept. So what is new urbanism, right? I mean, as an incremental developer, an urban enthusiast, new urbanism is a set of planning and principles that were modeled after how towns and cities have been built for the last several centuries. You know, there's walkable blocks and streets. You know, you've got housing and shopping within proximity. You have accessible civic spaces, right, like parks and squares, instead of open spaces that you see. The goal? No. The ultimate goal of new urbanism is to create places where people can meet and interact. Now listen, new urbanism is an enormous concept. It's many things to many people. For me, right, the cool sweet spot is the housing. The way it's laid out next to each other, right? You've got houses of different costs, different sizes. They're well crafted. And what we do is we nestle them next to each other. So you have porches that are fronting the street. Then you have recessed garages and alleyways for the cars. These lots are like long and narrow sized, kind of like the old city. Now, the way the house is set up, you have the porch in the front where people can interact with the neighborhood, and they can retreat to the safety and serenity of their house and their backyard. You'll notice in the upper left-hand corner, I think the magic of new urbanism, what struck me was the porches. And if you see in the upper left-hand corner, some of you may recognize these people, some of you may not. But my guess is that it's an old town named Mayberry, somewhere in South Carolina. A sheriff's named Andy, skinny deputy, his Aunt Bee, and his local mechanic named Gomer. But I think what really strikes me, though, is kind of the pull between the porch and the sidewalk, how they interact with each other and draw people together. And I think that's really, that's a magic. That's the science of new urbanism. How did new urbanism come about? I'll tell you how it came about. After World War II, yes, World War II, two things became apparent. The auto became front and center of life, and more room, more space to more Americans seemed more appealing at that time. So what happened was, we built suburbia. These post-World War II developments pretty much force you to drive everywhere, from shopping, schools, and other amenities. This wasn't the way we used to live. I mean, sidewalks have been relegated to ribbons of cement. These post-World War II developments have been shown to inflict negative social, economic, political, and environmental impacts on its communities. I would like to share 4 points. Traditionally developed neighborhoods help foster more relationships. In a study by Harvard, ongoing since 1938, the same group of people that they're studying, a lot of them are alive today, by the way, find that if you achieve long-lasting, meaningful relationships in your life, you will live an average of 15 years longer. It's on the sidewalk where you develop new neurons. Neurons that wire together and fire together, clear your thoughts, you make better decisions. It's on the sidewalk that your body produces chemicals like endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin. and dopamine. They help you feel better. So listen, right? You know, if making better decisions, living longer, and feeling better isn't on the top of your priority list, then maybe finances are. Homes that are within walking distance of schools, shopping, mass transit, downtown, sell for an average of 25% or $77,000 more than comparable properties that are car-centric. We need more sidewalk communities. All right. I know what some of you are thinking right now. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, this sounds great, but I own a house, or I have a house in a low walk score neighborhood. So what can I do about it? Well, you can do a lot, right? Remember, it's not all just about brick and mortar. It's about building community around you. Be a leader. Be a convener. Organize a neighborhood cookout, right? Your next door neighbors, invite them over. Have a garage sale. Adopt a dog. You'll be on the sidewalks all the time. Now, for all of you, try gate crashing a walkable community as well, right? You can people watch and support the local restaurants and shops. But for all of you who are fortunate enough to live in one of these great old or new walkable communities, share it. Share it with friends and family. Remember, it's not so much what your neighborhood can do for you, right? It's what you can do for your neighborhood. Maybe the days of riding your banana-seated bicycle and chucking newspapers are gone. But remember, just throw on your sneakers and I'll see you on the sidewalks.